Merry Christmas. Thank you for coming to listen to some Christmas stories. The first story I'd like to share with you is called The Angel in Idaho. In 1907, Beth was 24 years old. She had 3 kids, she was pregnant with the fourth, and her husband was a fur trapper, and he was named Carl. Christmas season, Beth asked her husband, "Can you sell some of your furs, go down to the valley, and besides getting supplies, buy some peppermint, some chocolate, and a stretch of cloth so I can make a dress for our baby girl?" Carl was very quick to agree. He chopped some extra wood to make sure that she had plenty of supplies. He headed out to the valley. While he was planning to be back the day before Christmas. While they were waiting for him to come back, she and the kids made decorations for the tree he'd bring back and made Christmas pudding. The day went on. At the Christmas Eve, he hadn't come home yet, or the day before Christmas, and she was a bit worried, but she was hoping she'd get here. And that night, there was a very bad snowstorm. Think of how cold it can be. Shh! Snow, snow, snow. It was a crazy storm. The next morning, she heard the cow mooing and wanted to be milked. She tried to open the door to the cabin, and it wouldn't open. She kept trying, and for over an hour she couldn't budge that door. She went to the fireplace, got the axe, and chopped off the hinges of the door. Then, when she opened the door and drug it to the side, she saw a slate of ice that was blocking the door. No wonder she couldn't get out. She used that same axe, chomp, 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 and cut a hole through the ice. She walked out, she looked around, she couldn't believe all the damage made by that crazy snowstorm. She heard the cow mooing, wanting to be milked. But as she started heading toward the barn, she was pregnant and the snow was above her waist. She was worried that walking in the snow could hurt the baby. So she prayed to God that Carl would come home quickly and that the cow would forgive her for not milking. She went back to the cabin. They spent the rest of this Christmas Eve at home. Carl wasn't here yet. He's a man of his word. She became worried when he wasn't going to make it. That night, she set her 3 kids to bed. They were a little bit cranky, and there was a noise outside. She and the 3 kids ran to the door. They opened the door and dragged it to the side, and standing before them was the dirtiest, scruffiest fur trapper they had ever seen. And one of the kids said, "Oh, Santa's found Burrick." And that was because the fur trapper was wearing his long johns, red long johns. He looked at Beth and says, "Don't be afraid, Beth. I'm on an errand on behalf of Carl. His horse is lame, and he can't come back tonight, and I said I was going to be in the area checking my lines for furs, and I told him I'd drop off the bag of supplies, and I've got a Christmas tree." She invited him in. He ate soup that she made, and then they decorated the tree that he had brought in, and because he knew the Christmas story by heart, she thought him to be a man of good character. He told the story. He then helped put the kids to bed. And she asked, "Well, don't you need to go back to your own family?" He says, "I don't have any family. Can I sleep in your barn tonight?" She gave permission, but only if you come tomorrow morning for breakfast. He agreed. Then he went to the barn. She opened up the bag that he had brought of supplies, and guess what was there? Peppermint, chocolate, a stretch of cloth to make a dress for the baby girl. She went to bed a happy woman. The next morning she woke up, started preparing breakfast for the trapper, and she opened up the door to be able to call him in, and she saw Coral on the horizon. So she was very glad. The kids came to the door. They'd had a good morning breakfast, a good morning Christmas Day, and he came. And as he came, he says, "I'm sorry I was late. We 2 hours trappers and I found a man, a trapper, that had fallen in the ice water of the river because he had broken the ice and was trying to water his horse. We rescued him, took him to the cabin, wrapped him up in blankets, stocked up the fire to warm him up. But we didn't think he'd survive the night. We wanted to go home to each of our own families for Christmas Eve. We headed out, each to our different homes, but I was worried for that fur trapper. I didn't want him to die alone. I returned back, and I laid the trapper's head on my lap. And when he became conscious, I would tell him about you and the kids, and how much I loved you, and how I knew you'd be disappointed that I couldn't get the treats for the family. That night he did pass away, and I came back. But Coral, you did bring the treats. I've got a trapper that says that you had him come up this way, and I've got him locked in the barn. What fur trapper? He was worried. He sent the kids to the cabin, and she and Beth went to the barn to check up on this trader. And he wasn't there. And there wasn't any tracks of snowshoes. No evidence that he'd been there. Beth thought about it. She prayed, and then she thought of it. She says, you know, I remember reading in the Bible that when a man shows charity or someone shows charity, sometimes God will bless that household to be visited by an angel. Beth, you were not visited by an angel. She took Carl by the hand. She led him to the cabin. She showed him the Christmas tree. She opened up the bag and showed him peppermints and chocolate and the stretch of cloth. Sometimes the gift of charity can be responded in different ways. And that is the story of the angel in Idaho. Thank you.